right. Let's see what time it is. So I'm just gonna give it a minute or two and then we're gonna get started. I'm just gonna give it another minute just in case anybody's running late. I don't want them to join late, especially if they're cooking along, they're gonna be behind. And then just a quick overview, I'm gonna be going over some knife safety instructions, and then I'm gonna be giving you the overview or the format of the cooking class. Just quickly, if you could type in the chat and let us know if you're cooking along or if you're just watching, that would be awesome so we know how many people are joining us tonight and cooking with us. Just watching, I'm cooking along. Okay, so I see it's kind of split down the middle. We have people watching and we have people cooking with us. That's awesome, guys. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So just really quickly, gonna give you a quick instructions on how to safely handle a knife. And it's not because I know you guys don't know how to do that, just a quick refresher. Make sure no accidents happen tonight if in the event that you're choosing to cook with us. So just make sure that you hold the knife as the following, just like with your index and the thumb on the blade like this, securely holding the knife, and then you are going to have your other hand in that bear claw position with your fingers tucked in, and you are going to be holding the item in that position, the bear claw position, and you're going to be cutting away from your body with your fingers tucked in so you don't accidentally cut your finger, and also to provide like a stable position for that item underneath your hand. So that was just a quick overview or a demo. And so the order for the recipes tonight are going to be as the following. We're going to start with the holiday cheese bread, and then we are going to have the pear ginger crumble, followed by the silken pumpkin pie mousse, and then finally we're going to end with the no bake cookies. So I'm going to give it up to Taylor to demo the first, or cook the first recipe that we have tonight, the holiday cheese bread.
Okay guys, I'm just gonna wash my hands real quick.
That's a good thing, Taylor. Yeah, we always want to make sure that we wash our hands and have our hair back, and we're wearing closed toe shoes as well.
All right, is that my 20 seconds? I think so. Okay, everyone. So this is a holiday cheese bread recipe, but it is, am I all good? Yeah, okay. I'd say it's more of a veggie bread recipe than a cheese bread recipe. So the first thing we want to do is get all of our veggies chopped up. So I'm just going to demo a red bell pepper real quick for you. So what I like to do is take the knife and kind of just run it in a circle about like right at the top right here, and then I pull it off. It usually pulls off by itself. Let's see, because I don't like to waste any of it. So I'm just gonna get off as much as I can. There, just the ring at the top. Set that aside. I have a little extra trash bowl ready to go right here like Rachel Ray does. And then we just want to gut it out, get all the ribs out of there. And then we're really only going to use about half of this, and so I'll just set the other half to the side. And so I will make little strips about, oh, I don't know, 1/4 inch thick. And we'll julienne the bell pepper is what they call it. Go. And I'll line all those strips up and then dice. And you want to do pretty small dices on this. Okay. knife is kind of dull, which is kind of sad, but it's okay. Okay, so I have that. It's about half a cup of red bell pepper, and I'm just gonna set that off to the side. We wanna go with the red and green theme for this bread to stick with the holidays, but you could definitely choose any veggies you like, as long as they're not too high in moisture like zucchini or tomatoes, because that'll kind of mess up the chemistry of the bread. Okay, the second thing I want to demo is a garlic clove, how to mince it up. So I'm just going to give it a good whack. Sorry for the noise. Okay, and so I have my nice little garlic clove peel. I'll cut off the little rough root of it, and then I'll do thin slices, and then some good dices. And I'll get it pretty small. We want all of our veggies to be pretty small in this bread so that you don't bite into big chunks while you're slicing or eating it. Okay, so get them pretty nice and small. Smells pretty good. Okay, so after you get all your veggies done, all chopped up, I'm gonna preheat the oven to 350. There we go, get that heating up. So I have a couple bowls here. The first thing I wanna mix up is the wet ingredients. So we're using 2 large eggs, and we wanna make sure they're the large eggs because the smaller kind is not gonna add up to the right amount of eggs. And large eggs are the most common anyway, so you shouldn't run into any issues, but I'm just gonna crack them into my smaller bowl. Set them off to the side, and then we have a 1/4 cup of milk. You could do anything from skim to 2%. And then I'm just gonna whisk it up. And we like to add eggs and milk to this recipe to make it more of like a biscuit than a bread. Okay, then we'll set aside about ½ tablespoon, and that is gonna be to brush on the top of the dough before it goes into the oven. So I'll set that to the side. And the milk should add some good moisture to this bread. Okay, so I've got that set aside. Now we'll move to the dry ingredients. And this, we'll start with ½ cup of whole wheat flour and 1 cup of regular white all-purpose flour. We like this ratio of ½ cup to 1 cup flour because it adds a little bit of fiber from that whole wheat, but not too much. And so if you do end up adding more than ½ cup of whole wheat flour, it just gets to be a little too dense, a little too heavy. So we just lighten it up with that white flour. I also had a teaspoon of baking powder and ½ teaspoon of salt in that mixture. So to our dry ingredients, I would like to add 2 tablespoons of butter. And this butter is at room temperature. And that's really important because we want it to mix well into the flour. And I've kind of I've chopped up that butter a little bit so that it'll be easier to mix in. You can always use a KitchenAid mixer, which is what I usually would do, but because it's a lot faster, but I figured I'd just show you how to mix it by hand in case you don't have one of those. Okay, so I'm gonna get in here. I'm gonna grab a spoon, and I am just gonna mix that butter in with the flour. Like that. Then the next thing we'll add is a 1/4 cup cheddar cheese, shredded, and a 1/4 cup Parmesan cheese. And so you can do whatever kind of cheese you like in this recipe. I just find the nuttiness of the Parmesan goes really well with the creaminess of the cheddar. And so it's a good combo. And so we'll mix that up more. The next thing we'll add is our red bell pepper that we diced up. And this will come to about half a cup. Then we'll add, also to have that red and green in there, half a cup of green bell pepper that I diced up. We will add about a quarter cup of diced green onion. I like the green onion in this because it is a bright green color and it's a little bit milder in flavor than just a regular onion. So it goes good. And then now we'll get that combined. And I will add that garlic in there. Oops. Okay. I think just 1 clove of garlic is perfect for this recipe. But of course, if you love garlic, which I usually do, then you can add more cloves if you'd like. So I am mixing that up, starting to get that butter to break down in there. At this point, I'm gonna jazz this recipe up. And by no means do you have to add any of this, but I have some fresh herbs that are harvested over the summer that I dried that I'm gonna add about just a pinch of too. So dried herbs is a good option. If you like spicy, which I love spicy, I am gonna add a little bit of cayenne. Oh, and a jalapeno would be nice in here too, instead of that green bell pepper. Oh, and one last thing, because I do love garlic so much, I'll add some garlic powder.
Taylor, people are asking what kind of herbs did you use specifically?
Oh, I have, it's kind of like the kitchen sink of herbs that I harvested from our garden plot. So I'd say sage, thyme, rosemary, parsley, basil, just kind of almost any herb you can think of. All the herbs except like cilantro. But you could definitely do just like an Italian seasoning blend or even just basil, something simple. Okay, so once you get that combined, we will pour in our egg and milk mixture. And then I will start to combine that. And I'll show you it in just a sec. I know you can't see too good from so far away. And so this is where I'm gonna get in with my hands probably, because the spoon is just not good enough. So I will combine with my hands, and then this dough is a little sticky, so we can add some more white flour to it to get it to kind of come together more. And so I have my flour right here ready to go because I knew I was gonna need it. So I added about just like a teaspoon. And combine. I'm getting really, really dirty hands by doing this. This is where the KitchenAid is helpful. Okay, so it really just comes together. And I will show you this once I kind of clean off my hands. Okay, so it really is more of a biscuity dough than anything. And so here, I'll just show you. It's red and green veggies. It's a little crumbly right now. I have a 9x5" baking pan that I greased earlier with some butter and oil to make sure it's gonna come out of the pan later. So I'm just dumping it all in there. This is a lot of veggies. Okay. And so I'm just flattening it out in the pan. best as I can. Okay. I will show you guys that once I get my cakey hands cleaned. Okay. So yeah, it really just takes up about half the pan, but it will puff up a bit. You can always make the center just a little bit lower than the edges so that it comes out as a nice flat bread. Okay, and the last thing we want to do, and there's my oven, is take that extra little egg wash and I just pour it over the top. And I use my fingers instead of a brush. One, because I don't have a brush. Two, because it's just a little easier. And so you kind of just want to get that all spread over the top, nice and glossy. And this egg wash is going to make for a nice crispy top and also get that golden brown color on it. Okay, so yeah, like I said, with this recipe, you can do just about anything you want. You can do almost any veggies you like. One that I think would be great is sun-dried tomatoes, or let's see, roasted red peppers would be good to add a smoky flavor. Jalapeno instead of the green bell pepper for some spice. What else? Yeah, really anything. Just stay away from the high moisture veggies because then it'll kind of just mess up the baking of the bread. But I think we're ready to go into the oven. If you guys have any questions, please put it in the chat. This goes for about 50 minutes, but you do want to keep an eye on it. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, Taylor. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. All right. We are a little bit ahead of schedule, so we're going to give a few minutes for people to catch up in case they are running a little bit behind, or if somebody is, you know, like still prepping for ingredients. How did we get the recipe? Yeah, so I went through the chat and I noticed a lot of people had the same question if you know, if they haven't received the recipes or anything. The temperature for the bread is 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Just really quick, Dakota, have you had a chance to send the recipes to the participants?
So most folks should have received them. I think it was Monday afternoon that I sent those out. For folks who registered later, they probably missed out on that email, but they'll be sent. You should get an email, let's see, do math, Tuesday or Wednesday of next week that will have the recording and all of the recipes and lists from you all. So
awesome. Thank you so much, Dakota.
of course.
Yeah, so the KRNC usually sends out or always sends out a packet of the recipes of everything that we are doing in the class with the ingredients, with the steps. So hopefully you will get that next week when everything gets sent out. And also we do send a whole list of the grocery items that you need to buy. And also all the ingredients combined from all the recipes is going to be on that grocery list. So you could just print it out for your own convenience and go to the store without having to do all the calculations that is already done for you and combined and put on that paper for you. Oh, is somebody leaving? Violet?
Yeah, someone left because they are going to get the recording, but some people are also saying that they got the email and not the recipes.
Yeah.
Just double checked inbox, trash, and spam.
Yeah, so it sounds like whoever joined late missed those recipes. So hopefully they will get them next week along with the recording. I'm sorry about that. So yeah, we'll give it a couple more minutes and we're gonna go ahead and get into our next recipe. So for the folks who are cooking along with us tonight, are we all on track? Is anybody behind? Does anybody need extra time? And if nobody does for now, feel free to just always send that text or chat and let us know that you need that extra time, and we'll slow it down. Awesome, thanks. Can't see names, sorry. The computer is a little far and I can't really read.
It looks like everyone's all good. Nancy.
Okay, cool. So we're gonna go ahead and dive into our next recipe then, if that's the case. So just as mentioned before, our next one is gonna be the pear ginger crumble. And just really quick for your bread, just like Taylor said, you know, leave it in the oven at 350 degrees for 50 minutes or 50 to 55 minutes or until golden brown. When I personally cooked it or made the bread, it took me like closer to an hour. It took me 16 minutes. So I would just keep an eye on it. Also depending on like how hot your oven is, maybe it's gonna cook faster, especially if you're using like one of the gas ovens, and maybe it's gonna be a little slower, just like my oven for some reason. So just always keep an eye on it. And a good way to test for redness or if it's cooked thoroughly is to get a toothpick and insert it right in the middle. If it comes back out clean, then it's good to go. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and jump into our next recipe, which is gonna be the pear ginger crumble. So just really quick before I get started, I'm gonna run you through the ingredients that I have, since not everybody knows what we're doing here. So I got a cup and a quarter of rolled oats, the old-fashioned oats. And then I got half a cup of the unbleached white flour. I got quarter cup of the turbinado sugar. I hope I'm saying that right. And then I got a half teaspoon of the ground nutmeg. And then I got about a quarter of a teaspoon of salt. This is a little bit too much. I'm using the salt for both of the recipes tonight. If it's used to cook, I'm not sure. Okay. Sorry, I can't keep track of the chat. And then we also have the cold butter. We have about 4 tablespoons of that butter. We're going to be chopping that into 1/2-inch cubes, and I'm going to be demoing that so everybody knows how to do that. I personally didn't know how to do it before this class, and I practiced for it. And then this basically all the ingredients that I ran through, these were for the toppings. And then for the filling itself, we are going to have our Bosc pears. So there are a lot of different types of pears out there. Bosc have been known to be the best for baking, and when you're shopping for the pears, you want to make sure you shop for the ones that are not too soft or mushy. You want to shop for the ones that are firm and nice. Obviously, like not too firm that they are unripe, you know what I mean? And yeah, you don't want to shop for the ones with the bruises or anything like that. What else? Yeah, so we have the pears, and I have about 2.8 pounds. The recipe calls for 2.5 pounds to 3 pounds. So depending on what you'd like or how much you'd like to have as a product, you can pick which, like in that range, how much you want to have. And then we have vanilla extract. To be exact, it's 1 1/4 teaspoon pure vanilla extract. We have 1 tablespoon, 1 tablespoon of freshly squeezed lemon. There you go. You can't see that, but there's something in there, I promise. And then we got 2 tablespoons of the cornstarch. And cornstarch is usually used to act as a binder when you use it in a recipe. And we have the candied ginger, which you want to add for that zesty flavor. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and demo how to cut the butter into 1/2-inch cubes. Oh, you can't see that. Let me adjust my screen. All right, that's much better. Sorry about that, guys. All right, so what I like to do is lengthwise, I'm just gonna cut it like so. And then I'm gonna flip it on the other side. And I'm gonna cut it also lengthwise like that. And then I'm just gonna eyeball it into 1/2-inch cubes, which is like about that much maybe. again, those were 4 tablespoons. And that's the end result, just like cubes of butter. I'm just gonna break them by hand. Alrighty. And also I'm just gonna go ahead and demo how to chop up the candied ginger, or basically just chop up the ginger. So what I like to do is just put it on top of each other, if possible, if it's not too crooked. And then again, that bare claw position, and I chop. Ooh, maybe not. Okay, well, I guess not. We're just gonna have to do it one by one. And it's a little stubborn, so my knife isn't too sharp for this. There you go. You just want to cut it into like tiny pieces. I'm just going to use this technique instead. And we have about 2 tablespoons of this. Oh, this one is really stubborn. Right. So we have all of our ingredients ready to go. So we're going to start by making our topping. I'm going to remove this from here. So in a medium-sized bowl, just like that size, we're going to combine all of our dry ingredients. That includes the old-fashioned oats, our flour, our sugar, and the turbinado sugar is essentially similar like the granulated sugar with molasses added back to it. And the other difference is that it doesn't really melt the same way the granulated sugar or the brown sugar would melt in the oven. So it provides a stronger or more like felt texture in the end product. And then I'm gonna put in my nutmeg and some of my salt, about 1/4 teaspoon. And I'm gonna add my butter. And I'm gonna use my fingers to mix all this together until it forms like a crumbly, textured. So I'm just using my fingers and I'm mushing it in. Are there any questions for me in the chat box, guys?
Nope.
Okay, great. And when you measure the turbinado sugar, you can measure it just like you're measuring, you know, the white sugar. You can just scoop it out of the bag. You don't have to like pack it down like you do with the brown sugar, just because it has a different texture than the brown sugar, and it's more or closer to just the granulated sugar. And the purpose that we cut the butter into like the 1/2-inch cubes is because we do want to form that crumble texture that we see also in biscuits. So it's not like we want to combine the dry ingredients with the butter, the melted butter. We want to have that crumbly texture is what I'm saying. All right, I'm getting close to having that crumbly texture, which is good. And basically this is what it looks like now. You can see those crumbles, that's what we're aiming for. And then I'm just gonna wash my hands really quick, and then we are gonna move on to the filling. Okay. So this is a pretty easy recipe. All you have to do, I think basically like all the work is in the prep and maybe the chopping of the 2 ingredients that we saw together, the butter and the candied ginger, as well as the pears. I already did slice my pears and peel them and core them. So I feel like maybe that's where the most time is spent. But once you have everything, you know, cut and ready to go, it only takes a few minutes to kind of mix everything together to get it all ready to go and be in the oven. Okie dokie. So for the filling in a large bowl, which I have right here, and I already have my pears in there, we are going to combine everything, and everything that includes the 1 1/4 teaspoon of the pure vanilla extract, and the 1 tablespoon of the lemon juice, and the cornstarch. Ooh, didn't come all the way down. As well as the candied ginger that we just chopped together. And we are just gonna mix this really quickly. Use a spatula over here.
Hey Nancy, Marie just asked, are the pears sliced?
Yes, they are sliced. They don't have to be chopped for this recipe. We are slicing them. And also you can substitute the pears for apples, or you can do a mix of both, like use half of the amount pears and the other half in apples. You don't have to stick with just pears if you don't like to. Alrighty. And then I already did preheat my oven to 350 degrees, and in your case, you already should have your oven at 350 degrees because you already put the bread in there. And I already did grease my baking dish. So I'm gonna go ahead and add the pears.
And then Bridget asked if there's any benefit to how thin or thick the slices are.
I would imagine if you cut them into thin slices, it would take a little bit longer, shorter time to cook, but I don't think it's that drastic time change, so I wouldn't really worry about how thick you do cut that. And then it says on the recipe chilled, it says put the chilled topping on the filling. It only says chilled because it assumes that you would finish the topping and then you would core and peel the pears and add the topping, which is not the case. So we didn't really need to chill this because it was really fast. And then we're just gonna add this on top, just like so. Just gonna spread it out evenly. All right. Just gonna clean up really quick. And then it's ready to go in the oven.
And then Trisha is asking any advantage of using the old-fashioned oats over the quick oats.
There isn't really an advantage, I wouldn't think. I would just think if you use the quick oats, it's gonna definitely differ in the size because the quick oats are smaller in size. So maybe you're gonna have to use a little bit more of that in comparison to the old-fashioned oats being a little bit bigger, so you don't have to use as much. I would just account for the size difference. Okay, any other questions? Nope.
I don't think so.
All right, cool. So just before I put it in the oven, you can substitute this recipe to be gluten-free. Instead of using the unbleached white flour, you can use gluten-free flour like coconut flour or like almond flour. You can also, if you're gluten-free or you want to make it gluten-free, make sure to use gluten-free oats. Oats are naturally gluten-free, so it's nothing to worry about in terms of the actual oat, but most of the manufacture of the oats happen in sites that do have the risk of cross-contamination. That's something to look out for. Alrighty, and I'm just gonna take this and place it in the oven at 350 degrees for about 35 minutes to 40 minutes. So assuming that you're doing the bread with us and now you're doing the pear ginger crumble, the timing is already kind of, made for you that both of them would be done by the end of the class, if not maybe a few minutes after the class. So that's good. Just keep an eye on your bread again, just to make sure that it's not getting burned, but we're not at that stage yet, so don't worry about that. Alrighty, so we're gonna be moving on to our next recipe. So if you have any questions about this recipe or substitutions or anything, just please feel free to just post in the chat like you've been doing. Otherwise, we are gonna be moving on. Cool, I don't see any questions, and we are well ahead of schedule. So just a quick check-in with the folks who are cooking with us. Are we all on the same pace, or do you need some time to catch up? That's great to hear. Okay, that's good. I'm so happy that you guys are following along, really. Okay. All right, so the next recipe that we have here is the pear ginger crumble. And I'm just gonna adjust the screen because I'm gonna be using a blender. It's on that side, and the only outlet, the closer outlet to my laptop is over there. So just bear with me as I adjust my camera position. I might just switch off my camera for a sec, and then I'll turn it on again when I'm ready. All right, I'm back, and I see a question in the Q&A, which I'm assuming just happened recently. What was the name of the next recipe? So for this next recipe, we are doing the silken pumpkin pie mousse. Cool. Let's get started. So again, just before I get into it, I'm going to give you a quick rundown of the ingredients that we have here. And oh, you can't see it. There you go. That's much better. Now I'm just going to have to bend a little bit. So over here we have a 10-ounce package of the silken tofu. And we have some, so actually I need to zest the lemon with you, but we are going to have about 1 teaspoon of lemon zest, which we're about to get to it. And then we also have vanilla extract, which is 1.5 teaspoon of vanilla extract. We have 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, the ground cinnamon. We have 1/4 teaspoon of the ground ginger, and we have 1/4 teaspoon of the allspice. And we have a pinch of ground cloves, and I'm just going to be using a pinch of salt once we get to that step. In addition to all of that, we do have a 29-ounce can of pumpkin puree. And what's not showing here is basically non-fat vanilla Greek yogurt, but it's not essentially going to be used in the preparation of the pumpkin pie mousse. It's going to be used more as a topping right before you serve it. So I'm going to go ahead and get my blender over here and hook it up. And after that, we're going to zest the lemon together. So silken tofu is the creamiest type of tofu. because it's unpressed and it's great for blending into sauces and creams and dressings. And it's also a good source of protein. I bet my vegetarian folks know that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and zest my lemon. I'm using this over here. And I already washed my lemons, so. It's not coming straight out. I think it's stuck in there. Let me try a different side and see if it comes out. Okay, it's coming out this side. It's all good. We only need about 1 teaspoon, so just a few more strokes, and then we're gonna need it to go. All right. Okay. Here's my blender. And I'm just gonna give you a quick heads up. I always struggle using this blender, so just bear with me. I just never know which way it goes. There you go. I think that's it. All right, cool. And then we're gonna combine all of these ingredients into the blender, except for the pumpkin pie or the pumpkin puree, and except for the Greek yogurt, which is not even here. And if you're using ginger snaps, which was an optional ingredient for this recipe, it's used as a topping, so we're also not gonna combine this here. So I'm gonna go ahead and add my tofu. I'm just gonna break it into little chunks. Make it easier. Not necessarily easier, but easier for me to fit everything else in. Okay, and then the lemon zest. And maple syrup. I'm using honey for this recipe, and that's something that you could also use. You can always substitute maple syrup or honey or agave for each other. They're used interchangeably. The difference is obviously in their content of like sugar. So that's something that you can keep in mind when you're shopping for them. So yeah, I just put in my honey, and then I'm gonna add my vanilla extract. I'm gonna add all my ground spices. I just have them combined here. And again, that's the cinnamon, the cloves, the allspice, and a pinch of salt. And add just a tiny bit more. I'm going to blend. All right. Okay, I'm having technical difficulties. Okay, well, I'm glad that we're ahead in the schedule, because I'm not sure what's going on. I'm gonna have to try a little bit and see if it fits in there. Well, if any of you has a similar blender at home and knows what's going on, I would appreciate any advice at this point, because I'm not sure. I know for sure that it depends on like which way you put it in, but I just never know. I kind of like
Nancy, really quick too, I know you're focusing on the blender, but someone asked how much maple syrup / honey is in the recipe.
Oh, that's a great question. It's a 1/4 cup.
I had to use that last time, and you have to put it in. There is an arrow on the bottom of the base, like a little white arrow, and it has to line up with the arrow on the cup as well, or on the lid.
There is a release thing on the lid. There isn't an arrow. Oh, I see it. So you're
Does that
saying
work?
a line?
And then yeah, you twist it on like that. Those are so finicky. Oh.
I know.
Oh, so yeah, this person is saying sometimes with the Ninja, the top has to go on a certain way. I know it's like the arrows on the lid usually line up. It's like two, oh.
Okay, so I tried it this way. Now I'm gonna try it that way. I'm like trying it every single angle possible, but I'm pretty sure that if it's hard to slide it in, then it's wrong. Okay. Try it this way. Try it that way.
And it's plugged in good?
Yeah, no, the only thing is if you see when I press the on, it gives you that flashing.
Yeah, this person said, are the arrows on the lid and is it plugged in?
It's plugged in, right? And then
is it on?
Yes, not right now, but when I turn on, it doesn't turn on because it's not placed correctly. You know what? For the sake of time, I'm just gonna try a different blender and see if that makes the difference. Maybe this one is just not compatible. I don't know. No.
Nancy, I don't know if it'll blend without the top on for safety purposes.
Okay, that's a good point.
And then again, this one should also have arrows because my mom has a Ninja, and you have to have the two white triangles lined up on the lid and on the base.
What time is it? Really quick.
It's 6:21.
Okay, we're still doing good. All right, so it goes this way. Yep, okay, perfect. So now it's working. So I'm gonna transfer everything over here. So bear with me while I do that. It smells really good already with the honey and all the spices.
Smells like garlic in my house.
Oh, I love garlic. All right, let's do this, guys. I'm gonna blend hopefully for 30 seconds on low. We go in and just scrape the sides really quick, because sometimes they get stuck on the sides. The blades don't really reach them.
Nancy, you have people in the comments cheering you on. They said good job for working through it.
Thank you guys, appreciate it. I'm just gonna scrape the sides one more time. And then again, the goal here is to just get it to be smooth. So I still see a little bit of crumbs in there, so I'm gonna blend again. And then I'm gonna just mute myself because of the noise. All right, I bet that was better for you guys. Okay, let's do this. So we are gonna add half of the amount of the pumpkin in here, and then we are gonna blend just the half of the amount. Let's see, it's about a little bit more. There we go, it's about half. And just slightly a little more. Okay. And we are going to blend until combined. I'm gonna mute myself again. Just scraping off the sides, just making sure everything is in there and the blades are reaching it. So everything becomes well combined together. All right, that's good. The rest of the blending we can do on our own because we are going to transfer this into a medium-sized bowl. Let's do that. So here's my medium-sized bowl. And I'm taking the blades out carefully. They're really sharp, I'll tell you that. And we are just gonna transfer everything over to this bowl. And then tofu tends to lack flavor, but it soaks up the flavor of anything that it gets mixed up with. So, you know, pumpkin and pumpkin pie spices are really good to get that flavor into the tofu, and tofu adds a really good texture to everything like you see right now. Alrighty. Get the last bits out of there. And if you don't have all the spices that we used in this recipe, just feel free to substitute them for pumpkin spice. It will just do the same job and get you that nice flavor. All right, and then we're gonna add the remaining pumpkin into the mixture and then mix. And then pumpkin puree, whether it's canned or fresh, it's really nutritious. It's packed with fiber, mineral like potassium, magnesium, and iron. And it also has some antioxidants like vitamin C and vitamin E. And then I'm just gonna mix it.
Big on vitamin A too.
Yeah. So I'm just mixing this. And then once we mix it, we are going to be done with this recipe. What you want to do is to just basically cover it and then chill it in the fridge for at least 2 hours. It's going to become firmer once you place it in the fridge for a few hours. And then you are going to top that with the yogurt. And then you can crush the ginger snaps and then just sprinkle it on the top as you serve it with the yogurt. And that would be all that I have for you guys in terms of this recipe and in terms for all the recipes for today. So I'm going to go ahead and shift the focus to Violet unless anybody has questions about this recipe or any of the previous recipes.
Okay, hi guys. I'm going to be showing you how to make chocolate peanut butter no-bake cookies. And so I'm going to get right started. We're going to start by heating a medium saucepan over like about medium to medium low heat, and we're going to melt a 1/4 cup of chocolate chips. And I'm going to say this a lot throughout this recipe, but this is a really customizable cookie recipe. I'm using just classic semi-sweet chocolate chips, but you can use pieces of your favorite candy bar, white chocolate, butterscotch, anything like that that you feel like will melt really easily. So we're gonna wait for this to melt for a little bit. And just a few other notes on this recipe. It's also, because it's like oat and peanut butter based, it's also, it's a good dessert option, but it's also a really good breakfast option. I know a lot of people have been getting into breakfast cookies, and it's a fun option to give to your kids. It's on the go. You don't bake them, they set in the fridge, so they keep for a really long time, and they're really easy to pack in lunches and things like that. I'm gonna give these a sec. I'm gonna stir them. Already starting to melt. And if anyone, this is also a good catch-up time while we're waiting for this to melt. If anyone has any questions or comments, you can feel free to ask them in the chat as we've been doing. And similar to Nancy's pear crumble recipe, I'm going to be using rolled oats, but you can also use quick oats. You don't want to use oat groats or steel cut. And what that means basically is it's just like if this was the whole grain kernel of the oat, that's going to be closer to steel cut or an oat groat. And then quick oats and rolled oats have just been sliced. And so it's easier when you're not baking them. If you used the whole grain, it would taste way too chewy and uncooked. Okay.
Hey Violet, do you think we can also look with you at the, like what you're doing? Just so
Yeah, I have, my angle in my kitchen isn't great. There's like no counter space.
yeah, no worries.
So
Just so we can see the steps.
here's me melting the chocolate, and it's almost melted. So I'm gonna go ahead. Yeah, it's pretty much melted. I have prepped here 2 tablespoons of milk. If you're dairy free, you can use any alternative like almond milk or soy. And that's starting to sizzle. I'm gonna turn my heat down a little actually. And then I'm also going to add 2 tablespoons of butter. Nancy showed you guys how to chop that, but 2 tablespoons isn't too much. And since we're melting it, you can just cut it straight from the stick, and they have it measured out on there as well. Again, if you're dairy free, you can also use coconut oil, which is good because when coconut oil cools, it solidifies, and so it'll do the exact same thing butter does here. So I'm gonna stir and melt these together. I'm also going to add a 1/4 cup of honey, and this is a really good trick. If you have any butter or oil or even oil spray and you spray down your measuring container, the honey will just slip right out. And this works for any sticky thing you're measuring, like maple syrup or molasses if you're making gingerbread later this holiday season. So I'm gonna add this, and we're gonna bring this up to a nice bubble before we add everything else. It smells so good. Set that off to the side. So just continue to stir everything together and make sure it combines nicely.
Yeah, and I would say it's about time to maybe check on your bread since it's been maybe 40 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes. So I would definitely check on it. And I believe it's been around 20 minutes for the pear crumble. So give that a little bit more time.
And just in case, I think I did mention it, but the honey was a 1/4 cup. And again, you can, another way to customize it, you can use maple syrup or agave. This recipe is very forgiving. I'm gonna turn my heat back to medium and wait for some bubbles. And the next ingredient that we're going to add, I'm just gonna talk about it before I add it while I wait for this to heat up a little more. It's gonna be 1/2 cup of peanut butter. I'm using runny peanut butter because that's my favorite, so it's what I have on hand. But you can use any kind of nut butter like almond or cashew. If you have an allergy or you're giving it to your kids' school and there's a lot of allergies there, you can use sunflower seed butter. You can use crunchy or smooth, whatever your preference is, whatever you have on hand. I recommend using a natural peanut butter, one that doesn't have added oils and sugar, just because the consistency is nicer. It's a little runny. But if all you have on hand is Jif, that's totally fine. So I have some bubbles going, so I'm gonna turn off the heat and add in my peanut butter and combine that. Try to get it all out. Unfortunately, spraying these measuring cups still won't work. Peanut butter sticks to anything. Try to get as much out as I can. So I'm going to stir in the peanut butter just to combine it into our melted chocolate mixture. Take it off the heat.
I just want to add, you can also use dark chocolate if you're a fan of dark chocolate in this recipe. Just like Violet said, you can substitute that for like your favorite type of chocolate, which could also include dark chocolate.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I love dark chocolate. The next thing we're gonna add is our half cup of oats. And this mixture is getting nice and thick. And if you've taken it off the heat, it'll already start to sort of like cool and feel a little bit more set. And so I'm gonna stir in the oats.
Do you think you could show us the mixture real quick? Oh, that looks really
Yeah,
good.
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing that this is the last recipe that we're doing of the night, because the final thing that I'm gonna do is take a tablespoon measure and scoop pieces onto a parchment lined baking sheet. And then you're gonna chill it for 3 hours. So these will be the last thing ready tonight, but I'll still show you guys the whole process.
Yeah, unfortunately for you guys, if you're cooking along, both this recipe and the pumpkin pie mousse are not going to be ready by the end of the class at 7 because you need to chill them. So just make sure that you kind of have to chill them before you eat them, because the cookies are they're basically really runny, as we can see. So they need to be set in the fridge for at least 3 hours to kind of like become solid. And same for the pumpkin pie mousse.
Yeah, so after I put these on the pan, I'm just gonna put them in the fridge for 3 hours. You can also leave them in there overnight, and I've done that when I've tested this recipe before, and it works out just fine, and then they're ready in the morning. So that's pretty much the end of my recipe. If anyone has any questions, or Nancy, if you have any other comments.
No, yeah, I think that's good. It looks really good. It looks firm and nice. So if you're making this recipe and for some reason it's a little too runny when you're making it or putting it on the parchment paper, what you could do is definitely add more peanut butter because it adds to the texture, and definitely throw in more oats. Because oats just kind of like soak that liquid, or just kind of like creates that binding factor where like all the liquid is just like on it. So it's definitely going to give you like a better texture if it's too runny. And we got
totally agree.
I'm unfamiliar with runny peanut butter. What brand did you use?
I got mine at Trader Joe's, but you can also, any peanut butter that doesn't have oil or sugar, if the only ingredient is peanuts, it's going to come in a like naturally very runny form. And sometimes there's even oil at the top that you have to stir in, which happens naturally. Sprouts and Whole Foods have places where you can like grind your own peanut butter. But like I said, if it's hard for you to find, or you just prefer like the classic Jif or Skippy that we've all grown up with, it'll still work in this recipe for sure. I think they just tend to kind of set a little faster and a little nicer if it's runny.
Yeah, and I've also tried the recipe using the creamy peanut butter, just like the Skippy brand, and I've also tried it using the Kroger brand. So either one just worked fine with the final product. It came out nicely, so whatever works for you for sure. And the other question. Can you add optional ingredients such as dried fruit or nuts to the no-baked cookies?
Yeah, definitely. I was in charge of testing this recipe, and I got a lot of comments from friends that it would have been a good idea. You could make them like trail mix cookies and add in like your favorite trail mix, or just like chopped nuts and almonds. Dried fruit is a great idea. Yeah, I think this also reminds me of a cookie recipe that I had in elementary school, where we did the same chocolate peanut butter mixture, but we added cornflakes. So it's really whatever mix-ins you want, the chocolate and the peanut butter and the butter, because the butter will help when they chill, make it set. That liquid mixture we made at the beginning is really just the foundation, and then you can sort of add in whatever you like.
Yeah, so just like Ralph said, you can pretty much add any other nuts or any other ingredients you want to eat in your cookies. And I mean, you can also play around with it, and instead of melting the chocolate chips, you could just like add more honey as your base as a liquid, and you know, have some solid chunks of chocolate chips in there instead of like, you know, having them melted. So you can definitely just play around with a recipe and make something of your own out of it. Pretty flexible and lenient. But again, it's just like the only thing you have to watch out for is like the amount of like the liquid versus the amount of like oats that you add, because if you put too much liquid and little oats, it's going to be runny and it's not going to hold nicely. Even if you freeze it for like 3 days, it's not going to hold. It's still going to be like really easily separated, and that's not the consistency that we're looking for, essentially. Okay, so does anybody have any other questions for us, guys? Anything about the recipes, substitutes for any, you know, chronic conditions or allergies? Because we're pretty much done for tonight. We had the 4 recipes and we made them, and I hope that you guys have enjoyed watching us doing it. Aside from that technical difficulty with me, I hope that the class was fun for you guys. So, yeah.
I think that my bread is ready to come out. So I'm going to pull that out.
Nice. And it's been around, what, 50 minutes?
I think, yeah, it has been, yeah.
Yeah, nice. Thank you, Marie. Thanks, Carrie. And I believe I'll pass along an evaluation form for you guys to fill out and let us know about your experience and your feedback. I'll pass that to Dakota, and hopefully she could pass that on to you. It would be greatly appreciated if you guys give us feedback so we can work through this new normal and having all the cooking classes virtually. And you know, if you have ideas for next classes, what you'd like to cook, just let us know and we'll definitely facilitate that for you, or any ideas in general. Thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you for everybody. Thank you.
Here's the bread.
Ooh.
We got a little bit of golden brown on it, especially along the edges. But yeah, I like to pull it a little bit early. So I stuck a knife in it and it came out pretty clean, but you could tell there's like a little bit that came out.
Oh.
But
is any of that because of the cheese, Taylor?
It could be, or like any chunks of butter in there.
Yeah, I wondered.
I like to pull it a little bit early and let it sit. That way it doesn't dry out too much while it's cooling.
Yeah, and thanks, Trisha.
Okay, are we all set? Are we good to go?
Yeah, let me just quickly give just a quick tip. So guys, the bread is ready with Taylor. If it's not ready with you, give it like 5 more minutes or so. Check on it every 2 or 3 minutes just to make sure it doesn't get burned, because it's that point where like it's really close to cooking. And for the ginger pear crumble or pear ginger crumble, it should be ready within the next 10 to 15 minutes. So just keep an eye on it. Okay, there's a question about the
bread. Yeah.
Yeah.
And thank you for the tip on the cookies. That's really smart, because then they'd be like the same shape. I like that. Thanks, Bridget.
Definitely add some meat if you like. I think it would be like a full meal almost if you added some ground meat in there. I think it would add a lot of flavor to it. Just an idea.
Yeah, if I would add the meat in there, I would fully cook it beforehand just to make sure that it's not cooked when you put it in the oven and take it out. So I would definitely just pre-cook it, have it thoroughly cooked, and then add it to the mixture and then throw it in the oven.
Yeah, definitely cool it down after cooking also, and then add it as like the very last ingredient.
Great questions, guys. Yeah, and again, just for the pumpkin pie mousse and the no-bake cookies, chill in the fridge for 2 hours and 3 hours, or longer if you'd like. They'll last. So cool.
Okay, well, thank you, Nancy, Violet, Taylor. Thank you so much. This was wonderful. To everyone who's in our audience, I apologize to those who didn't receive our materials ahead of time, but like I said, you'll receive those. You'll receive the recording as well as a survey and the evaluation from the Nutrition Center. So all of that will be coming to you in an email. If you're going to join us next Thursday for part 2, you'll receive those recipes and everything as well. If you don't receive them ahead of time, don't hesitate to reach out to anyone or any number at the Alumni Association. We'll be happy to make sure that you receive those ahead of time. So thank you all for being here. Thanks to all of our wonderful chefs, and have a lovely evening.
Thanks, everyone.
So thanks, everyone.